Welcome back to the South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast by Ohio State fans, for Ohio State fans. From the West Coast, I'm your host, Zach Moore. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024, and I'm very happy to be joined once again by fellow South Stands contributor Paige Van Horn from Denver. PBH, how's it going, my friend?
It's going well, buddy. You're forcing me to have some Heinekens on a Wednesday as opposed to a Thursday, but for some reason, it's not that hard. I actually kind of just slid right into it. It's not my usual routine, and I'm a man of routine, but I seem not to be having too much trouble with this transition.
It's muscle memory when it comes to that particular activity, my friend. We are also pleased to be joined by our man on the ground in Cleveland, Chad Plummer. CP, what's the word from the 216?
The word is the word up. It's Cameo used to say back in the day, like how he's drunk. But beautiful fall, like looking crispy, fire nice sky in the 216 tonight, and it's kind of nice doing the show on a Wednesday. Looking forward to it. Good to hear your guys' voices.
Likewise.
Keep the dream alive.
All right, buddy. Likewise. Good to have you with us. All right, party on. A quick programming note: this episode may not be dropping into your feeds until Thursday. We'll see how much energy your dutiful producer and host has left in him after we break down these games. So, guys, there's a few things I want to accomplish tonight. First, I want to take a quick look back at last Saturday's 49-14 Ohio State win over Marshall. Then we'll preview Ohio State's visit to East Lansing this Saturday night for the Big Ten opener against the Michigan State Spartans. Then before I let you guys go, I want to spend a few minutes looking at a couple of other games around the country that are of interest to Buckeye fans, including that colossal top 5 matchup between Georgia and Alabama on Saturday night. But there's a sneaky good Big Ten matchup, I think, that we should talk about before we wrap things up. But first, let's spend a few minutes looking back on last Saturday's result. The Ohio State defense wasn't as sharp as we were expecting. The Silver Bullets allowed their first 2 touchdowns of the season, but still limited the Marshall offense to only 264 total yards and only 2.9 yards per carry in the run game. The Buckeye offense went off for 569 total yards, which included 4 scoring plays of 40 yards or more. And the offense was as balanced as it was explosive. 289 yards through the air, 280 on the ground. CP, why don't you get us started? What stood out to you from last Saturday's performance against Marshall?
Well, I mean, I feel like this has been the narrative for, a couple of seasons now, maybe like multiple. Mm-hmm. But the slow start, like by the defense, like a little sluggish at Marshall's like, I thought they're going to blank him or like hold him to very minimal points. But, Marshall takes it right down the field. There's that last touchdown was kind of some, bullshit right before halftime. But, I mean, obviously they stepped up, took care of business in the second half. But, I would like to see a little 3 and out on those first drives like that.
Yeah, me too.
I don't need to be tweaking there for the first 5 minutes of the game.
So lackluster start by the defense. What else stood out to you?
You know what? The offense, obviously, Stevie Wonder could point this out, but Keyshawn Junkins, dude, that kid is, every time he touches the ball, it could be he could be gone.
Yeah.
I mean, he's electric, man. And I wish Brandon could take that, we last week, so we talked about how exciting it was to have somebody back there,
Brandon Ennis
to kick off. And then he fumbles the fucking ball. I think he just got got some sun in his eyes, so that kind of was a very brief tattoo on my site. But
Buckeyes got lucky on that play, by the way.
I think we looked good.
Yeah, I think so too.
You're right.
Yeah, we got lucky on that play, right? There was an illegal formation or something, I believe it was, on Marshall on the punt. And thankfully, that muffed punt got waved off by Ennis. But yeah, I was surprised to see that. He had another return that looked like he was going to take it to the house right in the second half, and he got tripped up by the turf monster.
You're right. That turf is concerning, man. Like it's funny,
Yeah.
like I'm glad you brought that up because like that's happened. Like I've seen that like multiple times, like in like last like 3 games.
Yeah, I mean the NFL has outlawed that surface.
That. I know. Like why are we still rolling?
Totally.
With that shit?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah.
Wait,
But the O-line looks good, I thought.
Say that again?
Yeah, so the playing surface that Ohio State is using both in Ohio Stadium and in their practice facility has actually been outlawed by the NFL. They're not using it in NFL stadiums, but Ohio State is using it. And you guys know, as you well know, we had a spate of injuries, soft tissue injuries over the last couple of years that could be attributed to the turf. And then, as Chad pointed out, dudes were losing their slipping and falling quite a lot. Marshall had their quarterback slipped and fell on a 4th and 1 that, short of the line of scrimmage, then they had to give the ball up on down. So, yeah, there's something going on with that turf.
And it's an eyesore. Remember when we were there, Chad, for the Oregon game?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is terrible. It's terrible. Like the O is, I know it's stupid. I know it's beyond dumb, but like, I want that thing to look like Augusta National, and it doesn't. And it's only 2 or 3 years old. I don't understand it. I didn't actually realize that had been a turf that's been outlawed by the NFL. So this is just going to make me angry.
Maybe Ross will take care of that shit.
Yeah.
Well, PVH, what else other than the shitty turf and dudes falling all over it? What else stood out to you from the performance on Saturday?
I mean, this one could go either way, right? Like, as we talked, I think, at the end of the game or something, you could make the argument, you could see this coming, right? I don't think the bye helped them at all. That early in the season, especially with the cupcakes they've been playing, they'd have been better off not having that bye. And then you piggyback that with the noon start. It's not surprising, I guess, at some level. And then there was something I saw on Twitter where Ibuka was getting interviewed by some guy. I had no idea who he was. And he actually talked about it. Like, there's just no juice at noon.
Yep.
And it's just an ongoing thing. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore because it drives me absolutely insane. So that would be what I would consider maybe the glass half full. The glass half empty, though, is let's just pretend for a second that they don't. They got lucky. That's an effing understatement that Innis fumble was overturned, because that game would have been a 1-score game at that point.
Well, it was a 1-score game. They would have tied it up. It was 14-7.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. And then you get into actually nail biting, scenarios. And then their quarterback gets hurt.
Yeah, he went down in the third quarter.
That guy was torching them or tearing them up, and they didn't really have any good answers for that.
Stone Earl.
And it seemed like he was not that hurt, and I was surprised he didn't come back. But man, and then whoever they brought in, then it was just over. Like you could tell, like those guys couldn't pass. But if those two things don't happen, I mean, we could have been in a 4th quarter dogfight with these guys. And so it didn't. Ifs and buts are candy and nuts. I get that. But it wasn't, it certainly wasn't anything to write home about. The offense, it's super explosive. Quinshawn's amazing. I agree. Like, that guy is a stud. I thought they just wanted to establish the run and just beat them down with that. And I was sitting there with Juan, we were watching, I was like, yeah, but you got to feed the beast, man. Let's get Smith a touch. And then, sure enough, a few plays later they do, and he takes it to the house. There's good things to, hang your hat on from the offensive side, but on the defensive side, it definitely was not their best performance. And so I don't know where I fall on this whole game, but you know what? It's in the past. We'll see, how they perform moving forward. But I could definitely go nuclear on them in a negative way. I'm inclined not to do that. But,
Why? Can you guys tell me why that we can't, adjust, the quarterback, the QB, run? I don't understand. I feel like that's, been a narrative, that needs to be corrected quickly. Obviously,
that sounds like a negative criticism, Chad. You normally don't have those in your repertoire.
I know, but you know what? I don't. But like, you know what? I feel like that was the thing that frustrated the shit out of me in that first quarter. Is like, I mean, you know what? If there's nothing there, he's gaining like 10 to 12 yards. You know what I mean? Like running up like on our defense of the middle. That shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that needs to be like adjustment earlier than like at the second half. You know what I mean? So
they were slow to adjust
on you,
to that.
Even though I love you, brother.
Well, my last thing, and I'm surprised you didn't bring it up on Sunday, but can we officially put the Devin Brown experiment to bed?
Yes.
Can we move on? And no offense to Devin, you're just not good enough. It's not helping. It costs all the Buckeye fans that had money on the game, the line, because we know these guys are going to get pulled. But even more importantly, like, what is left to see with Devin Brown?
Good question.
Right. He's had 14 pass attempts. He's only completed 8 of them for like 77 yards.
That's right.
No touchdowns. And Sayin is like, he's like played one game and he's had 2. He's 2 for 2 with 61 yards. So what the
and a touchdown. Yeah.
Devin beat it, dude. Take the 33 and like just like, you know, hey, run into the woods, man, dude. Like,
beat it, Terry.
Love you, but like, what would you say, Mount Union? Or like,
Mount Union.
Yeah.
I think even Malone. I don't even know if he could play for Malone College in Canton at this point.
Yeah. That's crazy.
I at this point, I want to go back to the defense real quick. I'm not going to lose any sleep over the play of the defense in the first half of that game. I wanted to see more pressure from the defensive line, and I wanted to see more havoc plays against the Herd. But I don't know. There are a lot of proven players in that defense who've won a lot of football games at Ohio State. I think there's good reason to trust the track record there. Let's just hope that the injury to Tyleik Williams is only minor and won't require him to miss much more time. I sent you guys an update from Bill Landis from the press conference today, and it sounds like he practiced. Yeah, he practiced today, and he looked good. So. He's absolutely critical to how they want to play defense. And the Buckeyes, as we know, are about to head into the meat of their schedule here soon. And then, I'm with you, PBH, on Devin Brown. I think at this point forward, any snap given to Devin Brown is a completely wasted snap and a lost opportunity to get Julian Sayin.
Calories.
Yeah, well, it's a lost opportunity to get Julian Sayin valuable game reps to get him ready for next season. And, we're heading into Big Ten play, so I don't know how many more opportunities they're going to have, blowouts going into the fourth quarter where reserves can get, a meaningful snaps. So I'm with you guys. He's a good kid. I love his confidence. I'm sure there are teams that would love to have his services, but at this point, I think it's coaching malpractice if Ryan Day continues to give those snaps to Brown over Sayin. I totally agree with you. CP, what else do you got on this game?
I sent that text on Thursday, and I said, when is 33 going to just stop the bleeding, dude? Yeah. I love your grit, but dude, you're not going to ever be the starter at this school. You've got he's got Sayin, you got Aaron Nolan, dude, beat it. And Lincoln might as well just beat it too, dude. That's crazy.
It was crazy when we were looking at
on and on about it.
Totally. Well, PBH, you and I did a preseason pod where we talked about how they kept all 5 scholarship quarterbacks from the spring, and I was just stunned that they were going to take that many quarterbacks into the season. I'm with you guys. Time to move on from Brown. Good kid, I think if he's on the roster he could conceivably transfer in the middle of the season, preserve his eligibility, right? Because he may not want to burn.
100% would. Somebody should be in his ear telling him to do that, man.
Yeah, I would think so, but I would certainly hope they would kind of process him out of the program, during the offseason if he's still around. One other game I want to look back at from last Saturday while we're looking back.
Hey, before we do that, I want to make a point of this.
Yeah.
And I know he had a knucklehead play, but we don't talk about him as much, and I think we should, because he's one of the most disruptive players that we have on defense is Caden Curry. When that guy's in the game, he makes plays. He had that stupid targeting penalty, right? He's going to learn for it. He's probably not going to play the first half. But I love that dude. That guy comes in, he plays with energy.
You feel him.
He's disruptive. He makes plays.
Yep.
You like even if you don't know who the guys are on the defense, right? Like oh shit, right? Like that guy, man, he needs playing time. I love him. I love his energy, and goddamn, he's a good player. And so I see a bigger role from him, on the defense moving forward from those disruptive plays that, were.
Did you notice they were lining him up in the Rushman package on the inside? And I think it was actually from the inside that he had the sack. I think they had Jack Sawyer lined up at end on that play, and he was on the inside, if I'm not mistaken. I heard J Book of Bucknut say in their post-game pod, he thinks it's time to have an uncomfortable conversation with JT Tuimoloau as it relates to Curry. Because we've seen Tuimoloau just kind of go for very long stretches, both within games and during a season, where you're like, is he there? Is he out there? And then we see him have these incredible games against the Penn States of the world, but there it does seem to be you don't always feel his presence, and he goes long stretches where you don't kind of hear from him at all. What do you think, CP?
Yeah, but then all of a sudden you have like certain like both years, the last 2 years, Penn State, he's been like the fucking
he won that game for us single-handedly.
Yeah, like so, like I mean I don't get like what it is, like, you know what I mean, like he's got all the talent, he's like, but he I don't know, man, it's just like
I'm not sure I agree with J Book that like there has to be a talk about replacing Tuimoloau in the starting lineup with Curry. I don't think at this stage, after everything that's gone on, you get him to come back and all that stuff. But I do agree with you, PVH. He has earned a bigger role. And
kid's got fire. He's like, he's legit.
Yep, totally agree. So while we're looking back at last Saturday, I want to get your takes on Michigan's 27-24 victory over USC. Because my take on it, and I mentioned it on Sunday, is I thought USC fucking blew that game. They should have won that damn game. PVH, what? Give me a couple thoughts on that game. What'd you think?
I only have one thought, is that I'm pissed off at you because I listened to you that said USC was great and they were scary and they're better than Oregon. And I didn't watch them play, right? And so, but I did see Michigan play, and the only way Michigan won that game is that USC is still just criminally inept on defense. And even all that being said, right? Like they kind of had the game in hand, and then I've never seen a linebacker draped around the waist of a running back and just slide off him like he was greased up and then go for 70 yards. But no, I was wrong on that. I thought USC would kick the shit out of them. They didn't.
Yeah, we all did, I think.
But they're not ready for smash mouth football.
Well, I guess the question is,
they got handled.
Yeah, but that's just because USC is still just terrible on defense, right? I mean, and Lincoln Riley's trying to put lipstick on the pig and saying, oh, well, we made, 43 or 47 tackles. And it's like, well, yeah, dude, the 4 you didn't make went for 90 yards, right? And, like, you're not going to win that way. So, you know what? Fuck USC. I hope they lose the rest of their games.
Yeah,
they're not ready for prime time. But guess what? Neither is Michigan. So I think it's just, to end my little rant, it's more of an indictment on USC than any praise that you're going to give Michigan.
That was
we're going to get to see, like,
go ahead,
USC
Peter.
and Wisconsin this weekend. We're going to see Wisconsin and USC this weekend. So we're going to see, like, if that, flips the script, they, step up a little bit, way better than they did against Michigan, or they are just a subpar fucking bullshit. Lincoln Riley needs to be an offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Yeah, so I'm actually in PFF right now. So USC had 10 missed tackles. I mean, Ohio State, I think, had 11 against Marshall. I think USC is improved on defense. I mean, I think last year's USC team or the year before would have gone, I mean, they would have given up, twice as many rushing yards and would have gotten blown out in that game. To me, they look improved. I just thought what was going on was probably between the ears with that team. I mean, I think that was definitely a championship DNA type win for Michigan, right? Where they have enough guys on that team that just know how to win in those situations, right? They've built up a championship DNA over the last 3 years, and we know USC has kind of lost their way for some time, and that program is learning how to win again in environments like that. And I think I told you guys, I heard that Matt Leinart interview a couple of days before the game, and he was concerned about exactly that. That they would have a little trouble handling the environment, and they did. It took them a while to adjust. They were down 14-3 at the half. Then there was that terrible pick six, that Will Johnson picked that off and ran it back. But they were able to recover from those 2 double-digit deficits. They were on the doorstep. And then I also thought Lincoln Riley did a very poor job in the last 5 minutes of coaching, right? Because they took the lead and got the ball back right away. They forced a 3 and out. They had the ball close to their own 40-yard line with only 5 minutes to play. You get a couple first downs there, the game is over. Instead, Lincoln Riley attempts 2 passes on that drive. They go backwards, actually, minus 3 yards. They only burn 59 seconds off the clock. So I thought there were some coaching mistakes there as well. And then, of course, PBH, you mentioned the execution mistakes, right? The worst time for the poor tackling that has dogged that program for years to rear its ugly head. They'd actually tackled pretty well up to that point. I just thought it was a lost opportunity for USC, and that could end up costing them on Selection Sunday, I think, should they manage to kind of win out or put themselves in position to get consideration for one of those 12 spots. That loss could come back to haunt them. CP, you got any other thoughts on that game before we move on?
No, man, I'm good.
Okay, great. Well, then let's turn our attention to this Saturday, number 3 Ohio State at Michigan State. This game is a 7 p.m. Eastern kick on Peacock. You guys make sure you subscribe to Peacock now.
Oh, $5.99, baby.
Yeah.
And they just changed it to, I'll give you my credentials, Jackie. But they just moved it to 7:30, Zave.
Oh, is it 7:30 now? Okay. All right. Thanks for calling that out. Okay. Thanks for calling that out, CP. Yeah. Now, the line is Ohio State minus 24. At least it was last time I checked. The over-under is 48.5. Ohio State leads the all-time series between these two schools 37-14, and that includes a 38-3 win over the Spartans last November in Columbus. The Buckeyes have won the last 8 in this series. Michigan State's last win in this series was that dreadful 17-14 clunker in the wind and the rain back in 2015 that ruined Ohio State's national title defense that season. All right, a couple tidbits here on this Michigan State team, and then I'm going to kick this over to you guys for a few thoughts. Head coach Jonathan Smith brings the Spartans into this game at 3-1. They're coming off a 23-19 loss to Boston College last Saturday. The Spartans' offense is led by dual-threat quarterback Aiden Childs, who Smith brought with him from Oregon State. Smith, by the way, very good coach, had a lot of success at Oregon State. This is his first year with the program. Now, Childs was a top 60 recruit in the 2023 class out of Downey, California. He's a very impressive athlete with a ton of ability. I was watching some of his tape on YouTube. But he's also been a fucking turnover machine so far this season. He has 7 picks in 4 games, and that includes 3 in last Saturday's loss to Boston College. Now, Michigan State has a pair of good receivers, including freshman Nick Marsh. They also have their leading receiver from last year returning, Montori Foster Jr. Both those receivers have over 200 yards receiving so far. The Spartans also have a solid running game led by UMass transfer Kayron Lynch-Adams. Lynch-Adams averages a respectable 5.5 yards a carry. By the way, Kayron Lynch-Adams, I don't know if you guys remember this, Ohio State was rumored to have some interest in Lynch-Adams during the offseason when he was at UMass. He was looking to transfer. He's actually from Warren, Ohio. And I think they were looking at him as a possible depth piece. But Lynch-Adams chose Michigan State, obviously a better choice for him because he's splitting carries with Nate Carter, who was Sparty's leading rusher last season. Carter averages about 4.5 yards a carry. He's a solid back. So Michigan State has an above-average offense, I would say, guys. I think it's improved from what we've seen the last few years with them. They're at 59th nationally in offensive yards per play, so respectable. You know, they're above average, I would say. Now, quickly on defense, the Spartans have been very good so far on that side of the ball. They are 14th nationally in total defense, 18th nationally in defensive yards per play. And this is a defense that makes a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage, boys. Sparty is tied for 2nd nationally in sacks with 15, and they're tied for 8th nationally in tackles for loss with 32. There we have 32 tackles for loss in 4 games. A couple names to watch on that side of the ball. They've got a really good corner in junior Charles Brantley. He's having a really nice year for them so far. He is their top-graded defender according to PFF with an overall grade of 85.1. And Brantley leads Sparty in picks with 2 and PBUs with 4. Finally, Wisconsin transfer linebacker Jordan Turner is another player to watch. Turner is their leading tackler, and he's tied for the team lead in sacks with 3. So CP, this looks like a pretty solid Michigan State squad with above-average offense, a top 15-ish defense that can get after the quarterback. Why don't you give me a few thoughts on this game?
Yeah, well, that guy Aiden, he's got a big mouth on that kid for
Is he?
The turnovers he had last week. Yeah, he's like.
Is he talking smack?
And I love he talks so much smack. Like the first week, I would bet on the over, and they didn't even get close to it. He's a cocky kid, man. He's got some swagger, but he does. He's young though. You know what I mean? He's gonna make mistakes. I don't think he's gonna be ready for this defense because I think Jimmy Knowles is gonna have him ready to play on Saturday night, especially if Tylee's back. There's gonna be a lot of pressure on the kid. I think they're gonna. I think it's gonna be his welcome party to big time college football.
All right, nice. I like it. PVH, give me a few thoughts on this game.
Yeah, you make it sound scary, and I always then have to go back and look. I'm not buying it. FAU, Maryland. They beat Prairie View. They lost on the road to Boston College, although Boston College is pretty good.
Yeah, they're solid. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I guess maybe. I was thinking coming into this, it's a get-right game for Ohio State, and I still kind of inclined to lean that way. But, Michigan State, gosh, they usually have some dogs on defense, especially at cornerback, so it's not surprising to hear they have another one and, go out and get some dudes in the portal. Yeah, It might be a pretty good game for a while. I just think this team, Ohio State's going to bounce back. I think they'll be better, under the lights. I'm actually kind of glad, it's on the road, right? It is in East Lansing.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see how they sort of respond to that, right? There's certain teams that, and individuals and players that thrive under those types of circumstances. So I think it'll be good and interesting to see how they, approach it and who wants it. So I'm inclined to see this as more of a get-right game for Ohio State. Again, pull away late, probably cover, comfortably. And, right the ship again. So if we're going to give them a little bit of a mulligan from last weekend, then let's get it done this weekend. That's kind of where I'm at.
I'm looking forward to seeing how the Ohio State defense responds to that lackluster performance against Marshall. I think that's what you mean by get-right game, PVH, right, on the defensive side.
The offense was great, obviously. Yeah. But the defense was... Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that the coaching staff did not award a silver bullet of the game to anyone last week. So I think that tells you...
I like that.
Yeah, I think that tells you how the performance was viewed inside the Woody, and I like that a lot. The standard is high, and they didn't meet the standard. And, they had a little trouble handling Stone Earl's mobility last Saturday. CP, you already referenced it. And they'll be facing a much better athlete in Aiden Childs in this game. Childs ran for 57 yards on 9 carries against Boston College last Saturday. No doubt the Michigan State coaching staff took note of the success that Stone Earl had as a runner against the Buckeyes. I think we're going to find out right away if the Buckeye defense actually has an issue defending the quarterback run, or if last week was just kind of a weird anomaly. The Spartans will certainly test that as a potential weakness, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also looking forward to watching this team play on the road for the first time this season. And PVH, you've already made a reference to this. The overmatched opponent in the Horseshoe Energy was starting to get a little stale, right? I think, or I certainly hope, this team is chomping at the bit to start playing real teams. Michigan State is a step up in offensive skill talent. I think they have far and away the best defense the Buckeyes will have faced to this point. This is a night game. Looks like the temperatures are going to be in the low 70s. Should be a beautiful night, and there should be a lot of juice in that stadium, and I expect Ohio State to respond really well to that. CP, I want to kick this back to you. Any other thoughts you have on this game before we move to score predictions?
Not really, man. I just want to see him come out. I want to get on. I don't want to have a sluggish start. Let's just you know what? Let's get out of the gate on defense. Let's a 3 and out, and you know what? I'll be happy after that. I need something because like that slow sluggish start's going to bite us in the ass sometime, and I don't. So that's all I want, man.
Yep.
That's all I want, man.
I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you, especially on the road against a team that's improved and, no funny business. No funny business.
Hey, a little bit of props for that coach, man. Though, like coming
Jonathan Smith.
That's like that fucking situation. Like that's kudos to that dude, man. Props to him.
Yeah, they played well. We'll see if they can keep it up over 12 games, but the early returns so far, they seem much improved. All right, well, let's move to score predictions, fellas. Again, the line is Ohio State minus 24. The over-under is 48.5. PBH, why don't I start with you on the score predictions? Give us your score prediction.
Yeah, I'm working on that right now. I'm trying to do some math with my 2.8 GPA or 2.2 GPA. The other thing about the defense, that I do think, and we talked about it, Reese was a non-factor in that game.
Mm-hmm.
Simon didn't do much in that game, but I don't think the defensive backs played that well either.
Safeties did. The safeties did. Yeah, I don't think the corners were great. I mean, I thought Ransom.
The corners were. Ransom was great. You're right about that. But those guys were getting open. They were making passes. You gotta lock those dudes down. And if you're first round draft picks, come on, man. That going back to the defense wasn't that great. I'm inclined to say 42-24. Maybe we don't cover.
Wow. Okay.
I was thinking we would, but it's not. I certainly don't see it or hope it's a nail biter, but probably don't cover. It might be a little tougher than I originally thought going into it. You talked me out of it.
Okay, 42-24. CP, how about you? Give us a score prediction.
47-10.
47-10. Okay, so you think Buckeyes respond well to the environment. Defense, it's a get-right game for the defense.
100%.
All right, I like it.
I mean, that, and they're going to smash mouth Aiden. Like, he's like, it's good. Yeah, that's what I think.
I think the Buckeyes do two things well that travel, and that's running the ball and play defense. I expect the Silver Bullets to play with a lot of pride in this game. I also think maybe we see Jim Knowles get into his bag a little bit more than he did last week. One thing I heard repeatedly from the various podcasts that I listened to in the post game was that the defense was very vanilla against Marshall. They're facing a young quarterback in Naden Childs who has trouble taking care of the football. Childs leads the Big Ten in interceptions, as I mentioned, seven picks in 4 games. I think they're going to try to pressure him. I think Knowles is going to have a little something for Childs. Then they do have to be disciplined in their rush lanes and that sort of thing to make sure he doesn't break contain, because he's an impressive-looking athlete in the open field. He can do some things. And I think the offense is going to lean heavily on the talent and experience of Quinshon Judkins and TreVeyon Henderson. Guys, by the way, Quinshon Judkins, I think you could make a very strong argument that he's the second best running back in the country behind Ashton Genty from Boise State. I think you could. Judkins, to me, looks like their best running back since J.K. Dobbins. I mean, it's only 3 games. TreVeyon Henderson there's no knock on TreVeyon because he's looked good as well. But Judkins, to me, looks like he's the type of back, the play doesn't have to be perfectly blocked. He can run through contact. He's got great vision. He's got a little bit of a burst, but you could kind of tell, like Dobbins, he doesn't quite have that 5th gear that Zeke had, right? He got run down. He had the long touchdown, but got run down. But he's plenty fast enough. He's gonna run for a lot of yards in this offense. It's just such a luxury to have 2 backs with Judkins and Henderson's ability. There's nothing neither back hasn't already seen at this stage of their careers, like 10 times over. I got the Buckeyes 42, Sparty 17. All right, fellas. Yeah.
So
go ahead, CP.
AI, our little friend AI has it wouldn't give me the score, but said under the 49.5 points due to semi-hot weather with moderate wind gusts.
Is that the weather report? What's that from?
No, that's that's Gemini AI on Google. That's what.
That's the weather report from
Gemini
the AI.
Under 49 points because of the
make note of that
and high wind gusts.
Okay, so To our listeners who've been known to place a wager on games of chance, note that from the
we don't condone any of that. We don't condone it.
AI stands for artificial intelligence.
All right, fellas. Look, there are two other games I want to have a look at before we close up shop tonight. The first is a sneaky good Big Ten matchup. Number 19 Illinois at number 9 Penn State. This is a battle of unbeatens, which unfortunately is happening at the same time as Ohio State Sparty. It's a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on NBC. Illinois is coming off a very impressive overtime win at Nebraska last Friday night. Now the line in this game is Penn State minus 19. The over-under is 47.5. I know this is a whiteout, but man, that line looks way high to me. CP, who do you like in this game?
That's crazy. I mean, you know what? I'm gonna roll with Brett, man. I feel like he can he's always been. What? No, it's Brett, clown.
It's Bert Kurger.
You said Bert last week, did you?
Yeah.
I think he should be. I like Bert for him. He looks like a Bert. He's a big boy too, by the
Bert,
way.
he does look better as a Bert than Brett. But I'm going with Illinois to cover. I don't know if they'll be, the win game, but they'll definitely cover 19 points. Or is that just a complete fucking sucker bet? Like everybody in the world's going to be betting on Illinois, and then Penn State just blows them out.
Yeah,
I mean,
it could be.
Calls their bluff. I mean, I think that might be the case.
Yeah, interesting. Know. Okay, PVH, what do you think? How do you see this game?
Yeah, just one more reason why they actually need a commissioner of college football. So the fact that you have that game, our game, and even, and then the game we're going to talk about next, all at the same time, right?
Such a bummer.
Right.
And I get it's different networks. Blows. But, I mean, come on, eyeballs, man. This is anyways. I'm with you. Like when I saw this game, I was like, I always like to play guess the line in my head, and I said like Illinois by 9 when I saw 19, and then I'm like, oh yeah, take the points all day long. But to CP's point, this could have the classic trap game written all over it, especially because Illinois came off that big win last week against Nebraska. I'm taking the points on this one for sure. I think it's a close game. Penn State probably wins it, but wouldn't surprise me if Illinois pulled it out straight up. But I think it'll be a really good game.
I'm going to take Penn State by a whisker. I don't think they cover. I can very easily actually be talked into an Illinois victory here. I think Illinois is going to push them well into the fourth quarter. Luke Altmaier, the Illinois quarterback, is playing very well for the Illini right now. He's completing 71% of his passes. He has 10 touchdowns to 0 INTs. I think the whiteout and probably the Penn State defense are going to be the difference in this game, but it's not going to be by much. Should be a really good football game. All right, fellas. Finally, let's have a look at that colossal top 5 matchup between number 2 Georgia and number 4 Alabama in Tuscaloosa. As we've already noted, this game is also a 7:30 p.m. Eastern kick on ABC. The line, last time I checked, is Georgia minus 2. The over-under is 48.5. Now, last time we saw Georgia, they were hanging on for dear life to eke out a 13-12 road win over Kentucky. Last time we saw Bama, they were pummeling Wisconsin and Madison. Both of these teams had last week off. Now, it's been a minute since these two schools played in the regular season. The last time they met in the regular season was 2020 in Tuscaloosa. Bama won that game 41-24 on their way to a national title. CP, who do you like in this game?
I'll tell you what, man. It's been like since I think 1784 that Bama was a home. It's like home dog, man. Like it's
right. Yeah, at least when Nick Saban was born.
Right, exactly. So I mean that's really crazy. And to your point, Z, last week, man. You know what? Carson Beck doesn't he's not looking anything like he was last year. And I know it's early, and we can all say this about this and that about whomever and their play and living up to the hype, but he's just not impressing me thus far. I tell you what, I think this game is a flip of the coin. And actually, you know what? I'm going to take the back. It is a flip of the coin, but I'm going to take Bama, because I'll tell you what, this is going to be like a state game. Like, hey, listen, Nick, it was great. You know, those two are going to be on set together on Saturday because game day is there. You know
wow.
I mean?
Okay.
You know, and I think this is going to be his coming to Tuscaloosa party. Like, you know,
his coming out party, huh?
Georgia.
Okay.
Yep, his coming out party. Yep.
All right. So you like Bama in this one. All right, PVH, who do you like in this game?
Yeah, everything in the world screams Bama to me. Because I did watch a fair amount of that Bama-Wisconsin game and did watch the whole second half of Georgia-Kentucky. And so the fact that, you know, Bama is a home dog, it all screams Alabama to me. Fuck, I'm taking Georgia. Right? Just I just think this is the complete...
Probably a good decision.
Right?
Yeah.
The complete sort of reverse engineer, whatever gambling, you know, axiom you want to throw on it. My heart and everything in my brain says Alabama, but I'm going to go with Georgia.
Okay. Yeah, well, Georgia certainly, I think, has the coaching edge at this stage. DeBoer's a good coach, but, you know, he's not been coaching at the same level as Kirby Smart for as long as Kirby Smart's been doing it. So I would definitely give the coaching edge to Georgia in this one. I like Bama by a field goal. I think this is a lighter version of Georgia than we've seen the last 3 years. I'm not sure they're as good at the line of scrimmage as they've been over the last 3 seasons. No Nick Saban at Alabama, that's huge. But Bama is still the most talented team in the country. They are number 1 in the 24/7 sports team talent composite. That's worth noting. Georgia, of course, is number 2, but Bama's, you know, technically the more talented team according to that composite. I think the home field is the difference in this one. So I'm going to say Bama by a field goal in what should be another really good game. And again, it's just a damn shame the way the TV schedules fell this weekend. Yeah, I mean, ideally we'd have Penn State, Illinois in that early window, then like Bama, UGA at 3:30, and Ohio State, Sparty in that 7 p.m. window. Instead, all three are in the same damn window. It's a bummer, but hey, look, that's what the quad box is for, right? PVH, there's going to be a lot of quad boxing happening on Saturday night, so set those up accordingly.
World problems, bigger world problems.
You know what?
Bob.
Throws the quad box off is a gummy, and it's just way information overload. Like, can't do it. Wait,
right?
What am I listening to? It's hard.
Wow, that's one powerful gummy if you can't set up the quad box.
No. I'm saying when you have it on.
This is too much.
You're trying to
stimulation.
4 different games. It's like you might as well be at a rave at 10:15 Folsom at midnight at that point.
Oh, that'd be good.
You end up at the end up.
I have been in an altered state at both of those venues, my friends, many, many times. All right, fellas, listen, that was a nice effort for a Wednesday evening. Why don't we end things there? Now, for our listeners, check your feeds on Sunday afternoon for a recap of the Michigan State game from yours truly. Until then, thanks so much for listening, and go Bucks. You've been listening to The South Stands, a Buckeye football podcast. Follow us on X at South_Stands.